In this video, you will learn how to remove and replace the rubber tracks on the mobile stairlift. For this task, you will need a 17mm wrench, a 13mm wrench, a 10mm wrench, a punch, a screwdriver, a hammer, and a 5mm hex wrench. First, place the folded stairlift on your work surface with the tracks facing down and remove the back wheels and brackets. To remove the 4 smaller bolts on the bracket, use the 10mm wrench to brace the nut while you rotate the bolt counterclockwise with the screwdriver. Remove the larger bolt by bracing the nut with the 13mm wrench and rotating it counterclockwise. You may have to press the bolts from the opposite side and screw counterclockwise in order to pull them out of the bracket. When you remove the largest bolt, make sure that you keep track of the thin and thick rubber washers. Additionally, make sure the metal cylinder stays inside the holes on the lever. Next, use the 17mm wrench to loosen and remove the bolt on the axle. Then align the punch with the axle and hammer the punch to slide the axle out. When the axle has been hammered beyond the wheel, slide the wheel towards the bottom of the chair to remove it. Then, pull the axle completely out from the opposite side and place it and the second wheel aside. The bracket will now slide off. The second bracket may now be removed by following the same steps and removing the 4 smaller bolts and the 1 larger bolt. When you have finished removing the second bracket, use the punch and hammer to drive the outer axle from the track housing. As the axle makes its way out, pull the axle from the protruding end and hammer the other end until you are able to completely pull it out. Next, flip the folded stairlift so that the tracks are facing up and insert the 5mm hex wrench into the hole in the bottom of the black rectangular component on the side of the tip of the track and rotate it counterclockwise. Use the same process to loosen the identical fastener on the other side of the track. This loosens the track's inner wheel and gives the track the slack it needs to slip off when the time comes. Next, insert the hex wrench into the bolt on the side of the adjacent metallic rectangular component and rotate it counterclockwise until the bolt can be pulled out completely. Remove the 2 metallic rectangular tightening mechanisms from either side of the end of the track and place them aside. Next, remove the inner wheel from inside the track and place it aside. The track can now be slipped off by pulling it towards one end and then towards the outer edge of the stairlift. To install a new track, first slip the track onto the track housing from the side. Next, slip the track wheel under the track and above the housing and press it towards the tip of the track. Then, while gripping the track around the wheel to hold it in place, slip the rectangular metallic fastener with the larger hole into the black rectangle on the outside of the track and insert the bolt while taking care to thread it through the bearing of the track wheel. Insert the metallic rectangular component with the smaller hole on the inside of the track and hold it as you rotate the bolt clockwise with the hex wrench until the bolt is flush with the outer metallic rectangle. Next, thread the outer axle through the 4 holes in the track housing. You may have to hammer it into place until it is centered and flush with the outer holes in the track housing. Now it is time to reattach the axle, brackets, and wheels. To reattach the bracket, first slide it on and line up the 4 holes in the brackets with the 4 holes in the frame. Then push the screws through the holes and screw on the corresponding nuts with your fingers. When inserting the bolts in the corner of the bracket, please note that the bolt must pass through a nut on the bottom of the extendable handlebar component inside the frame of the chair. When inserting the larger bolt, the thinner rubber washer must go in between the bracket and the outside of the lever, and the thicker rubber washer must go between the bracket and the inside of the lever. Next, tighten the smaller bolts by bracing the nuts with the 10mm wrench and using the screwdriver to rotate the bolts clockwise. To tighten the larger bolt, use the 13mm wrench to brace the nut and rotate the bolt clockwise with the screwdriver. Once the 2 brackets have been reattached, line up the holes in the wheels with the holes in the brackets and slide the axle through the 2 wheels and 2 brackets. Then, tighten the bolt on the axle using the 17mm wrench. You may have to brace the bolts on both sides of the axle to tighten it. Once you have thoroughly retightened the bolts, the stairlift is ready for use. For more information, please visit mobilestairlift.com.